Welcome to Backyard Basics. I'm Sweetpea Hoover, and I'm thrilled to talk to you today about herbs. There are two things you can do to help guarantee good herb growing in the yard. One is proper sunlight, and the other is proper drainage. Let's start with drainage. One product I find I love is Haydite. Whether I'm planting in a container with a great potting soil that drains well, I'm always going to add in a good handful of this Haydite product. It's expanded shale and pretty much guarantees permanent drainage wherever I'm going to put it. So again, in planting hole in the yard, I'm going to include the Haydite also in my containers. Have you ever heard of wet feet? That's when the roots are sitting in an unsatisfactory amount of water. It causes yellowing, affects the bloom cycle, so we really want to make sure we don't give our herbs wet feet. 3 herbs I know for a fact love sun, and we're talking 6 hours or over, are these that hate being overwatered, and this is thyme, our lavenders, and our rosemary. I actually call rosemary my mailbox plant because my hose doesn't even reach to my mailbox in order to water it. And now it's huge, flowering, beautiful. I'd also like to talk to you today about certain things that when you buy them so cute and little that you don't realize how big they're going to get in your garden. This little baby oregano that I got in this 4-inch pot is a Sicilian oregano. But if you read a little closer, you'll see it gets a potential of 2 to 3 feet. A good standby of how to measure that is an average sized person with a hug this big and this big is about 2 to 3 feet. Draw that out in your garden before you plant to make sure not one growing on top of the other, that doesn't happen. How about this little bay laurel here? This has the potential to get 20 feet high. I've actually seen it in a butterfly garden. They used to freeze back here in central Texas, but now that they don't, you're basically looking at a privacy screen. If you're not careful, this can actually overshadow and shade out perennials that had been there and enjoyed the sun at one time. So please be careful and mindful when planting something like the bay laurel or eucalyptus, which has similar problems. Let's move on to some of the things that can grow in shade. I know a lot of people do have shade and still want herbs. You really have a wonderful selection of things you can grow. Comfrey is one, lemon balm is one, and mints. I'd really like to talk about mint for a second. Because it grows from runners and also joints into the ground, we want to keep them separate. I have a great idea for you. It's also referenced in a lot of southern planting herb gardens. To actually take the mint in a terracotta pot. You then fill it with your potting or your actual garden soil and sink that pot into the ground. Mints like to stay in a shade and also a nice watered environment. Terracotta has that special moisture factor that can keep giving. It's got porousness. You're also making sure that these runners don't mix with other mints that you have in the garden. So I would like 1 mint per pot would be ideal. Also, a well-known thing, but hopefully maybe not to our new gardeners, is that once these bloom, they can cross-pollinate. So say I've planted my pineapple mint next to my peppermint. I could get a variation of the two and not get the true herb that I thought I was planting. So keeping them separate and maybe in the pots in the garden or separate when you're actually doing container gardeners would be optimal. And I'd like to feature my favorite mint to you this week, which is this apple mint. Contrary to belief, it doesn't taste like apple. It's actually the only mint that has spearmint and peppermint oil, making it a really soothing tea in summer. People also, when they grow these, don't know what to do with them after they've gotten started. How can you start including them in your teas and your drinks during summer? All you need is a mortar and a pestle. Slightly bruising the leaves, and don't be afraid to pinch. Most of these herbs are so soft-tissued that a little pinch was not going to hurt them. So simply pinch off what you're going to be using. This is great in iced tea. This is just great for, again, those 105-degree days that I know are just around the corner. Slightly bruise these herbs, include them in your favorite iced tea or water, and I think you're ready to go. Well, I've been Sweetpea Hoover. This is Backyard Basics, and busy hands are happy hands, so get out there.